Hello, everybody. This is Mike Young with the PlantBasedDiet.org, and I am here for a really great interview with someone that I recently met. Her name is, hopefully I'm pronouncing it right, Natlie Bianchi. Is that right?
Bianchi.
Bianchi. Yeah, I was close.
Yeah.
And let us know a little bit about yourself. I know that you are in central New York State in the United States, right?
Yeah, I'm in Onondaga County area.
Okay. And you're in high school, is that right? Oh, the video froze a little bit. Maybe she'll come back. Still frozen. Let me pause this so she comes back. All right, so we have Natlie back, and you're in New York State, in central New York State, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're in high school?
Yes, I am. I'm a junior in high school.
Okay, so I know you reached out to me about a festival that our nonprofit is working on, Erie Veg Fest in Erie, Pennsylvania, and I know you wanted to present, which hopefully you will in the near future when we have that event. But I know that you're really into veganism. It seems like, to me, it seems like from the environmental standpoint, is that right?
Yeah, environmental and health.
And health, okay. And I think you mentioned to me also that you're the only person in your family that has these exact types of viewpoints. Is that right?
Yeah, everyone else in my family eats meat and dairy and eggs.
Okay, so how did you decide to look at things differently and take a different path? What was the journey or the deciding factor for you?
So when I was like 10, I remember there was like news in my town that they were like killing deer. And when my mom told me that, she was like, "Oh, why are you upset about that? Like, you eat meat too." And I was like, "I guess I won't then." And then I went vegetarian when I was like in 6th grade, and my parents thought it was a phase, and then it obviously wasn't, because
Right.
here we are 6 years later.
Okay, so at first, the first thing was that you just didn't want to have to participate in harming animals, right? That was the
Yeah.
first thing. But then it's changed, right? Or at least you've added the environment and the health parts to it. So how did those kind of get into the mix?
Yeah, so I went vegan in like middle school after watching Cowspiracy and Dominion. I don't know if you've heard of, I'm
Yeah.
sure you
Oh,
have.
yes. Yes.
And then I am involved with a youth and government group, and I was like, well, why not talk about my veganism here? And that's when I got involved more with the health aspect. And then I did a project in school where I kind of looked more into the environmental side of it. So.
Okay. So from the health aspect, I'm definitely involved in the health, all of it, people, animals, on our planet. So, like, what are you seeing? Do you see people that, I guess, that your family members, that do they have health issues, or are you trying to better their lives, or is it just for your own self?
I would say for the health of everyone. So, Harvard actually did like a study, and they said that 644,000 deaths are caused by overconsumption of red and processed meat a year. So that was kind of the thing that like really opened my eyes. And I just lost an uncle to pancreatic cancer, and one of the main causes is overconsumption of like high cholesterol foods and meat products. So I inspired this bill that I did recently for my youth and government group, seeing that stat and having that experience with my uncle.
So, okay, so the bill, what is that all about? Legislation?
Yeah, so I go to this conference every year. Well, actually, this is my first year at the national level, and I wrote this proposal. Everyone writes a proposal, and mine was actually putting cancer warnings on red and processed meat, because the World Health Organization classifies them as Group 1 carcinogens and Group 2A carcinogens, respectively. Right. And so I think that everyone should have access to that information. So my proposal, I'm sorry if you can hear my dog. It's okay. My proposal was to put cancer warnings on like 25% of the packaging for all processed and red meat products. And that's kind of with the health thing.
So is that for real? You're talking with government people, or is that just something where you're like a mock legislation?
So it's a mock legislation, but then potentially our proposals can get passed into actual law.
Okay. And do you think things like this will happen in the near future? These types of legislations?
I hope so. I would love, unfortunately my proposal did not receive, I don't think people are necessarily like ready to hear it, but I hope that,
Yeah,
um, I think a lot of people, I did get some private messages, people were surprised they didn't even know this, which makes me kind of sad that people are like knowingly contributing to these like things that are so bad for their health without even knowing. So I hope that maybe I helped open some younger minds up to this idea, and that
yeah.
hopefully as this generation grows up, we'll be able to get something like that passed.
Yeah, it seems like that's how things go, right? You have to raise awareness, and more people have to hear about it that are voters, right? Because ultimately the
Yeah.
politicians want to support their voters. So yeah, I hope that you're right too, because I see this stuff. Like I was just at an event over the weekend, and they had some company that was a vaping company, and they had this tobacco warning, or this, well, not tobacco, nicotine warning, right? Right on the display. I guess they're required to show that, even though it was at a big event. I'm thinking, if I saw that, if I didn't know anything about the product, I'm not really that interested in it anymore.
Yeah.
So
And
hopefully
I
that'll
think
happen
that's
with
the
animal
next
products,
step.
right?
Yeah.
So but so you guys are just working on this in a mock environment. Do you think, or do you know of any, efforts with legislatures around the United States or elsewhere to give these kind of warnings? Are you aware of anything?
Yeah. So in um in the United States, there was actually a group of doctors who tried to get something similar passed, but then
Hmm.
they were told like, oh, like there's bigger issues, and the Trump administration just like completely ignored their efforts, even though it was like a big group of doctors saying like, hey, the World Health Organization says this,
Yeah.
like every major cancer society says this, but they were actually just ignored.
Well,
Um,
why do you think that is?
I think because of how much money the big meat industries make for the country, and it would really ruin their marketing agenda
Right.
too.
Right. So, I mean, I know for me, I'm not a politician. I don't really get into politics, but it seems like anybody who's got a large industry hires lobbyists who are very, very good at convincing government officials to vote one way or the other, right? And then that's why
Yeah.
things are the way they are, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So, what do you think has to change for that? Do you think that, I don't know, what happens? I mean, if you're finding that a lot of people said that they didn't understand that animal product meat is a carcinogen, do you think it's just education and awareness in general?
I think education and awareness, and also just, um, I guess trying to, I guess that falls under education and awareness, but just trying to like spread the message, just get it in people's minds so that like they come home and they maybe do a little research on their own, things
Yeah,
like that, get into people's heads.
like stuff like this, like us making a video, right? Uh,
Yeah.
when this video is out there, and if you're watching it now, it's already out there. You can share it, you can comment, you can like it, you can even
Mm.
give it a thumbs down. We don't want you to do that, but just something to get it out to people, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and well, I mean, for one, I'm really excited that you're doing this. I'm very thankful actually that you're doing it too, because I don't really see people approaching it this way. At least not this. I don't see too much of from the lawmaking side, and
Mhm.
I totally get why it needs to happen, because I see warnings, like I said, vape products, cigarettes. I think even alcohol bottles have warnings on them now, right?
Yeah, I think they do.
So it's slowly happening, but even still, like even with alcohol, I can tell you most people don't understand that that's a class 1 or group 1 carcinogen either.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
because the warnings on those bottles seem to be not very large. They seem to be like the one I saw at the vape company. It was very large. It was this giant white
Mhm.
rectangle that said that it has nicotine, an addictive chemical in it. So I hope that at some point that things will change with that. But let me ask you also about the environment. You're saying you're in this for the environment, because that's really a human health standpoint. So
Mhm.
what about the environment part? What can you tell us about how you're involved with that?
So in ninth grade, I did this research project. So for my earth science class, we all have to do this like year-long research project, like for the kids in the honors class.
Mhm.
And I did mine on how animal agriculture affects the planet.
Okay.
And so I looked at it at 3 different levels. I looked at like the individual foods and which foods are the best. Then I looked at this study that looks like 50 years in the future if we follow any given diet. And then I looked at on the individual level. So obviously the vegan diet was the best in like every single scenario. And one of them actually interestingly even took protein content into account. And
Right.
it turns out that even if a food does have higher protein content, if it's an animal product, that protein content doesn't compensate for how bad it is for the environment. And like foods like soybeans and chickpeas and like lentils and those kind of things always scored the best.
Yeah,
So
definitely. Yeah, they're very good. So,
mhm.
so you're saying that the more you move away from a fully plant-based eating, you're going to be harming the environment more, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, does everybody get this message? I mean, I'm 51, so I graduated high school in 1988. They weren't talking about this when I was in there, so I'm curious, like, what is everyone hearing this message nowadays?
No, this was something that a lot of people did like other things like tsunamis and earthquakes. I was just like, that would be about being vegan.
Right, right. Well, yeah. So basically, what you're saying is that the the vegan lifestyle, the vegan philosophy, animal product free, that's not really being taught as part of the curriculum.
No,
No. Do you think it should? Do you think it should be
I
taught?
definitely think it should be. Yeah.
And do you think? I mean, how far away from we are that from hearing this in the curriculum? I'm curious because, like I said, nobody would have ever given a report on veganism in 1988. All right, in high school. So at least you're doing that. So, I mean, can you see this happening in the near future that people will be learning this stuff being taught from the school? Is that possible?
Maybe not the near future, but I think, unfortunately, in my area, there's not a lot of vegans, which
Right.
makes me really. I have actually no vegan friends.
Yeah.
I have a few vegetarian friends and a few people who are like sometimes vegetarian, like the people who like go in phases.
Yes.
But I think there's one other vegan in my grade, and I'm not. We have a big class, so I'm not very close with her.
Yep.
So I don't know.
And
Hopefully,
you go to public high school?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. That's I went there as well. And like my class had 500 people in it, about 500.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ours I think is like 800.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure you probably see the people that are in high school. I mean, are people eating plant-based foods? I mean, because even if someone's not vegan, right? Are you seeing like a transition of people seeking those things out or no? Like, what are you seeing?
I do think a good percentage of people will like try a plant-based burger at a restaurant and things like that.
Right.
I think they're definitely seeking out plant-based options. Like they wouldn't ask for no cheese on their burger specifically, but maybe they would say like, "Oh, let's try the Beyond Burger."
Mm-hmm.
Things like are becoming a little more mainstream.
That's good. Yeah, because we see that as well. We see a lot of the stuff that we're seeing. I think, like you're commenting, is more like a transition food, right? It looks and tastes and smells like the animal product version, right? It just doesn't. It's just not no animal products.
Yeah.
So, we see it. We view it as like a whole transition, but it's great to hear that that's happening. Because as I mentioned, with me in high school, none of that was happening. I can't. Nothing. No one's even thinking about that as a possibility. And also there was no internet either when I was in high school, right? I mean, there was no cell phones. I don't think 1988. I don't think anybody even had one, or if they did, it was very limited to like urban centers at that point in time. So it seems like with information, I mean, we view this as like an information and an education thing, right? So like once you learn, then you're more likely like learn why, right? Which I think why. then you're more likely to adopt it yourself. And with everyone being connected now, like even though you say you don't know anybody, hopefully you can find people online, because like we through our nonprofit have local groups in different areas that we're in. We don't have one in central New York, but we do have one around the Erie area where you're thinking about speaking at the Veg Fest next year. So we have some, but we highly encourage that for like the reasons that you say, that you don't want to feel like you're the only one out there. It's better to connect with people. So that's also why we make videos like this too, to get the word out, to encourage people.
Yeah, I would say definitely since I went vegetarian like 6 years ago, there has been more options. I remember back then at my local grocery store, it was pretty much just like Morningstar was the only option. And there wasn't like any prepared vegan food options. It was pretty difficult, but now like there's a million options. Pretty much back then, like all you could get was almond milk or like Daiya cheese, but now you can get like these really fancy like vegan Gouda cheese and stuff like that.
All kinds of ice creams too, right? And the
the ice cream selection is almost as good as the regular ice cream section.
Yes, that's great. It's great to hear, because it wasn't like that even even a few years ago it wasn't like that. It's just been the last couple of years. Well, that also brings me into something else. What about, since you're in high school, you're growing up, living in not your own house, because I have experience in my own house. I can do what I want, right? It's my own house. But how do you handle this type of a lifestyle in the situation that you're in going to high school?
It's hard sometimes, but now we've been doing it to go vegan. Okay, my mom wasn't like totally on board. When I went vegetarian, she was okay because she thought it was just a phase, but obviously definitely not thrilled. But my family's actually Christian, so I was like, oh, vegan for Lent, like give up animal products for Lent, like. And I was like, haha, surprise, I'm staying vegan. So that's how I kind of like lied my way into being vegan.
Okay,
By then, my parents had seen for like 40 days that it was not that difficult. So that's kind of how I convinced them.
Well, so how do you, like, do you just say, hi, hey, mom, I need this to eat today? Or does she already know like what to get you now that you've been doing this for a while?
Now she pretty much knows. I go grocery shopping with her a lot.
Okay.
And like help plan meals and stuff.
Oh, that's good. So you're involved in everything. Okay, very good. And I also think that, just from my own perspective in viewing this as an educational thing, I think it's great that even though it's difficult, that you're in a household of people that aren't vegan, because you're constantly influencing them every day, especially if you're doing the right thing, which I do believe you are. If you're doing the wrong thing and influencing them, I would not say the same thing. Or also from your mom's point of view, let's see. Well, I mean, I'm guessing, have you noticed anything from her point of view or from others in the household? Have they changed at all since during the time that you have changed your lifestyle?
I would say not necessarily their beliefs have changed, but they accidentally eat more vegan food.
Right. Yeah, you will.
I'm vegan, so it's a positive change no matter why they're doing it. And the same thing with my friends, like they're not necessarily like vegans, but like when we go out to restaurants, we go to vegan restaurants a lot and stuff like that.
Yeah.
My parents, like, sometimes they'll make two separate things, my mom.
Okay.
But a lot of the time she'll just make one vegan thing and then just add something that's not vegan at the end. So it makes for like a mostly vegan dish, which is something that probably wouldn't have happened before.
Correct. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I know also you mentioned that the Christian aspect and Lent and giving up meat, right? And that kind of started a lot of the process, because I think that's good. I'm sure you realize that from the Christian perspective, you're going to have some backing there, right? There's obviously the belief system feels that that's important for whatever reason. And also, I think I'm not an expert on this, but just as a little point of pointer, I guess I'm giving you, maybe go back to what the Garden of Eden was like, which I believe was only fruits and vegetables.
It was, yeah.
So yeah, so I might, if Christianity is a strong belief, I would focus more on that and learning why that was better. Why that's looked at as being better too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not personally, I don't identify with Christianity anymore, but I've definitely found like using that to promote veganism to be helpful. I went to a vegan festival in Syracuse and they had a booth for Christian vegans, and I thought that was really interesting, like how they tied in their beliefs with the veganism.
Very good. Well, yeah, I believe that from the Christian point of view, it should be taught. I think it's not, for a lot of the reasons that you said earlier, about like, why don't we have warnings on red meat? Well, there's a lot of reasons, right? But they should be there. So
yeah, people do what's convenient, and I don't like that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for talking to us about everything you've been doing. I'd say keep up the great work. You seem to be doing well, even though it's just you, for the most part, it seems like. And you're helping everybody else. Everybody who's out there who follows the vegan lifestyle, I know appreciates what you're doing, because I know it's not easy. It's difficult. It's much easier if you could just, I'm sure you know this, get into a place where you have everybody that's vegan. But you also don't positively influence others if you're in that situation. So you only do in the situation that you're in now. So it's very important, because I know, like us, from an organizational standpoint, a lot of times we find that we're just preaching to the choir, but really the whole purpose of us existing is to educate other people that aren't aware of this stuff yet.
Yeah.
And it's not, sometimes it's not fun. It's not easy. You should try to make it like that, but a lot of times it's not, but it's still worthwhile.
I agree.
All right. So thank you so much again. And hopefully we can talk more as time goes on to learn about other things that you're doing. Because I think if you're doing things at this stage in high school already, then I really look forward to see what you might be doing, in another 4 years, see where you are at that point in time. Or I'm sure you'll be doing more in between then, but I'm thinking in 4 years, you'll be doing some really great things that you can't even imagine right now, as long as you keep going. Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Have a good one.
All right. Bye.